Good morning, Evie. Hello, Tub Nug, aka Grace. Wake up, baby. Popgun is live. Your baby can stay asleep. Your baby can just watch the VOD on YouTube or Spotify. Or listen to it. Listen to it while they sleep on Spotify. Good morning, Sky the Demon. Hello, Stan TTV underscore. How's my morning going? My morning is going great. Thank you for asking. I don't trust Evie. Spotify still can't hear Emil. That's unfortunate. Email. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. no low ink head feeling. I don't know. I think this is the last low ink we need to do. I don't see a reason to do any more low inks. I think it's time to pull the plug. Who's with me? You've all had your opportunities to win it. Thank you for hosting that smash. You made it. Valor Rock's with me. Awesome. Creating a new tournament where only my subscribers get to participate in it. Cash prize is non-existent. Instead, the prize you get is just a nice little pat on the head if you win. And if you lose, you're never invited back. Winners only. The new dark future of IPL. The reign of Popgun has come, and all will suffer. Pooping. Losers get banned from competitive. If you lose this tournament, you cannot sign up for any other tournament ever. You are banned by Splat Safety if you lose this one. I like that. Name of that tournament is going to be the Finals. We're finally going to eliminate all of you teams. You're gonna watch me on TV? Okay. My wife and I will watch some Ludi sets on our TV, which is always fun. It's more entertaining than watching live sports, especially since we cut the cable and we don't get live sports anymore. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you're claiming that you are eligible for Twitter verification, having people like your tweet so you will say something nice about them, asking for an exemption into the next low ink during the current low ink, whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. First off, congratulations to those of you who made it into a Plus server. I see those got dropped today, and people are already asking on Twitter, how come you downvoted me? I thought I was good enough. My advice, if you want to impress other high school, middle schoolers to vote for you to be in a pickup server, don't play in low ink. It's I believe if you're in +3, I don't know if this is an official rule or not, but I think if you're in +3, that disqualifies you from low ink. I don't know if we agreed on that, but if you want to make +3, and you can't at the same time have the mindset of trying to win low ink. You should be having the mindset of being too good to even be considered to play in low ink, I would assume. That would be my advice to those of you who are confused that you didn't make it into +3, but to whatever. Congratulations to the people who did. I didn't look at the actual numbers yet. I know K-Bot did like a breakdown last month of how, for some reason, there are more people in +2 than there are in +3, which makes no sense when you consider what a pyramid looks like. It doesn't get fatter in the middle. But I guess we'll wait and see for that information to go out. Or if somebody wants to take the time to count everybody who got in this time around. Please don't, because you're better than that. News, tournaments that are coming up this upcoming weekend. It's dangerous to go alone. This is a free agent tournament that's going to be going on this Saturday, May the 29th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration for that closes tomorrow, May the 25th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't have a link handy, but I don't know. It was promoted on a lot of the IPL streams this past week. So if you want to find information about that, I guess hit up Lepto Flare. Hold on, let me find the exact person. Lepto Flare. It's the person who is DMing me about this tournament. So hit them up and they can give you some more information about that. It's a free agent tournament. I don't believe there's any skill cap, so anybody can sign up for it. Fun fact. This was the first tournament I actually ever played in before Sploot Troops / Destiny Troops was a thing. I just played in a free agent tourney. The first time I played in a tournament was July 28th of 2018. And I remember the first time I ever won a match, or actually a single game in a tournament. It was Splat Zones at Muscle Forge Fitness. And I was so hyped. I was like, yo, I beat somebody. This is really cool. And I don't remember anybody that was on my team for that tournament, but still, if you like these draft tournaments, Launch Point does, Midpoint does, the SAC All-Star Tournament, this free agent thing is kind of in the same vein, and it'd be a cool thing to meet new people. And if you're not doing anything this weekend, give it a shot, see what happens. You might learn something, unless you don't. Today, we're going to be recapping low ink. I hope this doesn't come into a surprise. I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to a lot of you, but here we are. We are recapping yet another low ink. So let's get right down into it. But first, I said I would start off with an apology if I were to get something wrong or I was to be totally miss something totally obvious that everyone else saw. It seems like whenever I do my apologies, they seem less apologetic and more defensive. As far as like, of course I didn't see this coming, because who would see something like this coming? Talk about the advantage of being under the radar and how not being the team that everyone is targeting for, everyone's getting excited to play against, how that kind of works to your advantage. But Ink Reapers were not even a blimp on anybody's radar. How did a Div 7 team win low ink? In theory, this shouldn't be happening at all, right? Because if you're Div 7, that means you can't beat anybody who's Div 6 and above. It's impossible. We've never seen a team beat a team that's a div above them before in any situation ever. How could this possibly have happened? First off, let's dispel some incorrect rumors and misinformation that I saw circling around Twitter last night. And it's really unfortunate that this keeps happening whenever there's a surprise situation of somebody winning a low ink that nobody's ever heard of. The first thought that pops into a lot of people's mind is that, oh, something's wrong here. Somebody's cheating. Somebody snuck in. Low ink staff didn't verify these guys. There's something wrong here. I didn't win this tournament, and I don't recognize the name of the team who did. Therefore, somebody is cheating. Oh, I love it when you guys just start spreading stupid crap like that on Twitter. I absolutely love it. I could go on a rant about how this is what makes Facebook stupid, how the whole political scene that we saw last year was just a whole bunch of garbage, because you can just say anything you want on social media without anybody verifying it, and other people are just going to immediately assume the stupid fact that you spat out of your mouth is 100% truthful and will take it and roll with it, and they'll spread it to somebody else, but they won't say it the same exact way you do. So it's kind of like the telephone game. So that lie you told initially now becomes an even more ridiculous lie that some other moron believes, and that's how misinformation gets spread. It's relevant to a lot of things outside of just Splatoon, but when I see something tweeted out that is incorrect, that it is, I know for a fact can be disproven, I'm always going to point it out on the Popcast, and I'm always going to let you guys know that you are idiots. So let's get down right to it. First off, the thought of, was Ink Reapers technically legal for this tournament? Let's look at each and every single rule that would apply to a team being eligible for a tournament. First off, Ink Reapers are a Div 7 team. Turns out this tournament is for Div 5 teams and below. Math, just off the top of my head, would tell you that 7 is lower than 5. Wait a minute, isn't 7 above 5? Yes, but as far as divs are concerned, 7 is lower than 5. So that checks out. Hey, are these guys really a Div 7 team, though? I don't think so. I think they showed yesterday that they are much better than a Div 7 team would typically be. Now, it's interesting because they're not even the best team in their own group. They're currently 2-1 in their Div 7 group. They lost to Free Painters. They lost to them 5-1, which is very curious. So how good are Free Painters actually, or what happened in that match? You don't really know sometimes. Maybe it could be a DC issue. Maybe the Reapers won game 1 and then one of their players just disconnected and they played the rest of the set 3-4, 3v4 or something like that. We've seen situations like that happen before. Regardless, the Ink Reapers are on paper 2-1 in their own group. Should they be a Div 7 team going forward? Nope. I think we could probably bump them up to Div 5. There was nothing we saw in this tournament that would suggest they were above a Div 5 ranking. Now, can you say this about probably 200 plus teams that the div they got a month ago probably still isn't relevant to what they are right now? Yes, you stupid morons, of course. We can say that. There's probably so many teams in Div 7 that we can be like, hey, these guys are probably Div 6, maybe Div 5. There's so many teams in Div 3 that we can be like, hey, these guys need to go down to Div 4. They're not this actual Div 3. The problem is those seedings came out a month ago. Already it's been a month since those seedings came out. And as we've learned over the course of the Ludi season, the divs are no longer relevant. The problem is, since Ludi only happens once in a blue moon or a red sun, those divs are not going to get updated. So you guys need to quit taking these divs and planting them in your head forever, that this is who you are. It's not. We can mentally adjust these divs in our heads. But regardless, as far as low ink eligibility is concerned, on paper right now, yes, ink creepers are Div 7. But Popgun, there's that DSB German Ludi League that they are in, and they are Div 2 in that one. Shouldn't that disqualify them? Well, let's look at the rules that are on Battlefy as far as eligibility. Clearly states DSB Div 1 and above are banned from low ink. And yes, let's use some more math that we used last time. 2 is below Div 1, so even on that factor, they are still eligible for low ink. Now, you can't just look at an individual, you can't just look at a team as a whole just to verify them for low ink. You have to look at each individual player. As those of you have known who you've received DMs from me, you know that sometimes I DM you and be like, hey, this player used to play on this team for a really long time and got some really good results. Just because your team as a whole isn't as strong as that team that player is formerly from, that player is clearly too strong for low ink and they can't play. And they're like, well, we played in a tournament with that player and we did really bad. Well, that's because you are really bad. That's not that player's fault. Regardless, let's look at each individual player. No, I'm not going to list out the exact history of everybody that is on this team, but you have players that have on this team that have played in low ink before with a lot of experience. In fact, the only player of the 4 you saw yesterday, there was only one who had never played in a tournament before on Battlefy. However, that particular player wasn't like head and shoulders above everybody else in the lobbies that they were in. Just take my word for it. And number 2, they are on the roster for the Ludi tournament anyways. So it's not like this person was just some smurf that snuck in. No, it is a person that is still verifiable, even though they don't have exactly Battlefy experience that everyone can look at. So though, on an individual player level, all of these players were perfectly fine. Somebody claimed that they had a 2700 solo queue skill level player in this tournament on that team. I saw the same tournament you guys did. Did any of those players on Ink Reapers look like they were a 2700 player? Going up against Div 5 teams, did any of them really stand out as head and shoulders better than everybody else? No! Nobody got... They weren't like... There wasn't one player on Ink Reapers that you saw, dang, that guy's a monster. Just top to bottom, they were just a solid team. But they weren't, there was no, if there was really a 2700 player on the Ink Reapers team, they didn't play like it at all. And even if they were, can you find anywhere in the rule book that says a 2700 solo queue player cannot play in low ink? You will not. You know why? Because how good you do in solo queue doesn't an automatic comparison to how well you will do in low ink. I think there was one player on Last Chance that claimed they got 2700 once. That was back when this was a Div 4 tournament. You know how many low inks Last Chance won? 0. They lost to Luau. They lost to Xanadu. I don't know what to tell you guys. 2,700, yeah, in theory, that's pretty strong. If you got it once, if you win traded and got yourself 2,700, congratulations. It doesn't mean you're too good for low ink, even if it is true. And as you saw the same streams I did. Nothing that happened there would suggest, wow, that player is a really strong player, because we just didn't see it flat out. Why the witch hunt? Why do we have to take away from new teams that win quickly instead of just praising them and saying congratulations for winning this tournament? It makes you look so petty. It makes you look butthurt that you're the one who didn't win, that your first comment on Twitter is, yeah, wait until Low Ink staff finds out who these guys really are. Then Fruit Punch is going to be the team that win. Not saying I saw Fruit Punch be the team that complained about this at all, because why would they? They played them straight up and saw for themselves that they were not a 2,700 team. This wasn't even a dominant win at all for the Ink Reapers. Let's compare some past champions, just the teams that have won Low Ink this year. Now, we're omitting January because Rising Matrix is clearly an outlier. We're omitting March because who won the tournament in March? I have no idea. It'd be too confusing to do all the numbers. So let's just look at Night Surfing and Xylo and compare them to the Ink Reapers here. The per game record Night Surfing had 30 wins, 8 losses. For Xylo, 33 wins, 5 losses. For the Ink Reapers, only 27 wins and 15 losses. This was not an easy tournament for the Ink Reapers at all, especially compared to Night Surfing and Xylo. How many times did these teams sweep their opponents, i.e. 3-0, I guess a 4-0 in grand finals when it gets to that. But how many times did they just flat out 3-0 their opponent? Night Surfing, 4 sweeps. Xylo, 7 sweeps. Ink Reapers, 1. They only 3-0'd a team once. Saturday and Sunday combined, just once. Every other match was a 2-1 result on Saturday, and at least 1, if not 2 losses during winner's run on Sunday, and 3 losses in grand finals, the Fruit Punch. How about the opponent's opponent win percentage, i.e. your personal strength of schedule? Now, you can't really compare a strength of schedule from one tournament to the next one because the types of teams you see in that and the teams you play against aren't exactly the same, but it still tells the story of, did you have an easy run through Swiss versus did you have a not so easy run through Swiss? The opponent win percentage for Night Surfing, 66. Xylo, 61, Ink Reapers, 63. So that tells you, just as a comparison, that when we say the Ink Reapers did not win and lost more games than the other two teams, they still played the same strength of schedule. 2 points tougher than Xylo, 3 points weaker than Night Surfing. So it's basically the same skill comparison level for all these numbers that I'm reading out here, and still the Ink Reapers were nowhere near as dominant as Night Surfing or Xylo. And yes, if we added Rising Matrix into this, it'd look way more, like it would be way more embarrassing for all 3 of those teams involved. What they go 34-1 per games in that tournament? I digress. Regardless, the problem is this. Nobody complained about Night Surfing winning. Nobody complained about Xylo winning. Everybody praised them. And why is that? It's because Night Surfing had to fail several times in Low Ink before they won it, back when they were Battle Chip. Xylo had to fail several times in Low Ink. They had several Xylo moments where they just didn't show up for a couple of months before they came back and won it. But you knew who Xylo was. You knew who Night Surfing was. And that's why when they won it, even though they completely dominated compared to Ink Reapers, you gave them praise. Why can't we do the same for Ink Reapers? It's very easy, because you guys don't like it when somebody doesn't have to suffer through months and months of choke the same way that a lot of you have choked out throughout these Low Inks, and they just come in their first one and they win it. I'm sorry. I'm just going to call it like it is. There is nothing nothing that would suggest that the Ink Reapers were A, too good for this tournament to be signed up into it, and B, that they were so much better than everybody else in this tournament that they couldn't be defeated. They lost. And they lost a lot. I would imagine 15 losses is the most we've ever seen from a team that won winner's bracket. Obviously, if you went to the loser's bracket and you had to force a bracket reset and you won, your numbers are going to be a little more off compared to everybody else. By the way, Xylo and Night Surfing also won from the winner's bracket. They did not have to go through a bracket reset. But still, this is a new era of low ink that we're in here. I said this last week. Low-level competitive Splatoon is the Wild West right now. We do have some favorites, and we're going to look into my top 10, because my top 10 did pretty well, and there are a lot of teams that I had pretty high up in my list that did do pretty well in this tournament, even though it wasn't good enough. It probably didn't meet their own expectations because they didn't win the tournament, but still, it's not a bad tournament if you don't flat out win it. But this is the reality of low level that we're in right now. Div 4 is gone. Only 2 Div 4 teams were allowed in this month. And yes, I'm now a head TO, but I'm not going to spill any information. I think we all can assume that eventually Div 4 is going to be completely out. Not breaking any news. Don't take anything I said, but Popcast says it's going to happen. No, I'm just talking out loud here. I'm just saying this is a Div 5 and below tournament. And until it is established who is truly what div, now that divs are no longer relevant because it is a month later, it's going to be a little weird. And we got to be open-minded to the fact that teams you might not have heard of are going to survive this low ink, and that is what the Ink Reapers did. They survived. They did not flat out win this one. They were the last team standing. Don't blame them for winning a tournament that you failed to do so. It's not their fault. Regardless, speaking of the top 10, let's look into how they actually did. And yes, just because I put a team in the top 10 doesn't mean it's law that one of these 10 teams has to win or else something crazy is going on here. No. In fact, my top 10 did just about as good as they always did. 6 teams made alpha, 3 made beta, 1 had to drop halfway through due to internet issues. I was right about Fruit Punch. I had them at, number 8? And they were a new team. I was glad. I caught that team early, so that it wasn't a surprise when they made a deep run into grand finals there. In fact, they were a lot better than I thought they would be. Interestingly enough, because we did deny one of their players, but even without that player, they still did really well, both Saturday and Sunday. So Fruit Punch, obviously I owe them an apology because they weren't the 8th best team. They were clearly the 2nd. I got the Fukatsu Angels right. I had them at number 3, and they finished literally at number 3. Hey, we got some of these things correct here. Fukatsu Angels are a Div 5 team. They should probably be better. Probably. Yeah, I guess. Nobody complained about that. Symphony, Geek Squids, and Citrus. Look, these guys all had good tournaments. Symphony had a really almost had a record Saturday. Probably not the Sunday they wanted, which is, again, for the casual viewer looking at this, I don't think anybody blames Symphony. I think anybody blames Geek Squids or Citrus. They all, in their own rights, had a good weekend. All 3 of them can't win the tournament, though. The only one team gets to win, so there has to be some failures, some here. And I believe they all at least played each other at some point. Maybe the Geek Squids didn't play either one of these teams. I'll have to go back and look at that. I know Symphony and Citrus did play each other in round 6. In fact, Citrus was the only team to take a game off of Symphony on Saturday. But all these teams did have a good tournament. You can't just look at it and be like, oh, they had to win it. And maybe that's the mindset they have. And that's a fine mindset to have as your own team. When Destiny Troops played in SAC, we had the mindset of anything short of winning at the end is a failure. And we ended up in second place. And I still wouldn't see it as a failure now, but I could understand the frustration of not reaching your goal, but that still doesn't undermine how good of a weekend you still had once you go back and actually reflect on it. Now, am I going to correctly guess the winner in the next Low Ink? Of course I am. Of course I am. But are we going to have another situation where like an Ink Reapers team just completely slides in under everybody else and wins the tournament? It's possible. It's absolutely possible. The Reapers weren't the only new team to pop off in this Low Ink. So let's start talking about who all did, starting with Saturday. And then we'll move on to Sunday, and then we'll call it a day. How does that sound? Let me just catch up on chat. I think somebody made a really good point. Omega, to be honest, it's not even only Low Ink. This happens in every level of competitive. That quick improvement is more hated than praised. Yes, and that's not just applicable to Splatoon. That's anything in life. Anybody who skips levels of progression and just passes up somebody else's is usually met with disdain and hatred, and that's human nature. I understand. I've felt that way in several aspects of my life. It's understandable. Let's look at some matches of note from the Swiss stage. And let's get this out of the way right now. Shiver Me Inklings 2-1 over Tooniverse. This is significant. And the Shiver Me Inklings had a monster weekend. And we're going to be talking about them a lot. But this was the first match I saw them win. What made me go, oh, okay. Tooniverse has become a really strong team, as we'll figure out later. But I think the Inklings added a new player to their roster in the past month or so, like an armor bot. I don't know if I've heard that rumor correctly or not, but considering the improvement they took from last month to this month, I'm willing to believe it that they've added somebody pretty strong, and a nice win here against Tooniverse. The Fukatsu Angels got a 2-1 win over the Ink Reapers. What? They beat the Ink Reapers. They should be banned from the next Low Ink. They're too good. The Ink Reapers got a 2,700 team. Somebody forgot to tell the Angels on Saturday. And I hate it when I commentate something and I don't realize it's a rematch, because this was on Saturday, Swiss, and these two teams had a rematch in winners finals that JPEG and I commentated. And I wish I would have known, or I wish I would have gone back and saw that, because those are usually good points to bring out, and there's good things to talk about over the course of a set, is the revenge factor that goes on in these things. But at least for Saturday is concerned, and I believe this was the first game of the day, or first round of the day, the Angels put the Reapers down 0-1 to start this tournament. Someone help me pronounce this team name. Yosemite? There's an exclamation point at the end of it, so you got to say it with infinite emphasis. They did get a 2-1 win over 3AM, and they looked really strong in the early portion of Swiss. I believe they were 3-0 before they dropped the last 3 games that they played. It ended up tearing through Gamma Bracket, but getting a win against a 3AM team who made Alpha Bracket looked really good. Looked really good for them there. Yosemite? Like Yosemite Sam? You guys are saying the national park. It would have been a lot better if you just said the Looney Tunes character. That would have been a lot more applicable to me. Hey, I said they started off 3-0. You know who the first team to beat Yosemite was? How about CIA getting a 3-0 sweep of Yosemite? The agents brought them back down to earth just 2 rounds after they beat 3 a.m. That's pretty impressive. No, it's not Yosemite. It's not Yosemite Sam. Yosim It E. Hey, this team did really good, and the CIA was able to beat them 3-0. That's pretty significant. The Night Logic got a 2-1 win over Night Shade. Yes, the main reason I'm pointing this match out is because they both have the word night in their name. Hey, at least it's not ink. Is there a team called Night Ink? If there was, that would be the perfect combination of malarkey that goes on here. This was a one game. The winner who won this one went on to go to Game Bracket. The loser did not. So, good significance there. Nice win for the Night Logic over Night Shade. Rising Hope got a 2-1 win over the very cleverly named pickup team Div 2 Low Ink Warriors. And this was another strong pickup team made up of members of the Deep Fried Octolings, and I forget who the other two players were from. But still, the Deep Fried Octolings couldn't play this tournament, so it's nice that the players could still come together and form a good pickup team. And Rising Hope, I think some people were kind of surprised when I put them in the top 10, considering they were a Div 6 team, because a Div 6 team couldn't win this. Oops. But for... why would that word be banned? That's crazy. But for Rising Hope, this was a good win against the strong pickup team. Tinta Shrimp, not the tacos, not the cocktails. I believe they're from a clan or a group or something, and they just combined together to make one team for this tournament. Tinta Shrimp got a 2-1 win over Rising Hope. And this was really the situation where the Tinta Shrimp team played spoiler here, and this is what kept Rising Hope out of Alpha Bracket. Otherwise, I think they would have made it, but losing to a Tinta Shrimp team, I believe who made Gamma Bracket, was really... And you love these kinds of situations where a team can't make a certain bracket or can't contend to win the tournament, but they can trip somebody else up who does have an opportunity to do that. You see that a lot in Ludi, especially this last week. There are teams that are eliminated, but they can play spoiler and just screw over somebody else. I like that situation. And the Tinta Shrimp team played spoiler here for Rising Hope. Ink Eye. Man, Ink Eye had a really good tournament, including a 2-1 win over Anarchy. And this is a great win for them in a great Swiss Saturday for Ink Eye, because this Anarchy team made Alpha Bracket. And Ink Eye was able to beat them 2-1. That is very significant. Ink Eye is constantly improving. I remember when they were excited just to make Gamma Bracket, they did much more than that this time around. And beating an Alpha Bracket team, probably one of the best wins in their program's history. Syntopia got a 2-1 win over Sekinaga. Now, I mentioned Sekinaga as one of the teams in my top 10. I believe I had them at number 4 because they were a strong Div 5 team that we had not allowed in the past. But since they were Div 5 this time around, we let them in to see what they would do. They did pretty well, but not as well as Syntopia. This Syntopia team was a mix of Neptune, Envoy, and Neon players. And this win got them into Alpha Bracket. If Syntopia is a new, actual, legit team, they will be a strong team in the future. And got a nice win there. Fallen Inc. 2-1 over the Fukatsu Angels. Hey, if you guys think Div 7 team winning is crazy, how about this Div 8 team in Fallen Inc. that is consistently in the 2 tournaments they've played in, have made top cut and are getting notable wins, this one being one of the more notable list of notable wins that they've gotten in their career, the Fukatsu Angels. I really like Fallen Inc. I hope they keep getting some wins like this, and we can keep praising them so that you guys can get butthurt when they do win low ink and you don't. Anarchy got a 2-1 win over Wii Sports. This was the only team to beat the best pickup team that we've seen in a while in low ink in Wii Sports. We'll talk more about Wii Sports, but this was the win that probably got Anarchy into Alpha Bracket. So a nice 2-1 result for them right there. Can we talk about the one Div 7 team that beat Citrus and 3AM? Just go back to the VOD of this. You've missed out on about 20 minutes of me rambling off about that. I would assume you're not going to like what I have to say if you're confused about that. Let's talk about people on Spotify have no idea what I'm talking about, which is fine. That's probably for your benefit. Let's talk about my winners from the Swiss stage before we move on to Sunday. First off, let's start with the teams that went undefeated because that is notable. First off, we're going to go with Antarctica Splatoon, who went 6-0 with key wins over the Inkstrike Inklings, Geek Squids, Fukatsu Angels, and Dark Rain. This is a bright future ahead of us for Antarctica Splatoon, whoever these guys are. Sometimes when you see a new name, I don't know if it's a project like Battle Chip was, or if it's an actual team like Night Surfing is. But with Antarctica Splatoon, I think it was Booples was the more notable player that I saw on that one from the former Spirit Incorporated team. And the chat is saying it was a pickup. Okay, so it's in the pickup stage. If it goes past that to be a project or whatever, then so be it. Squid Society plus Boopy. Yes, I believe I saw Lord Esper was on that team as well. Still undefeated on Swiss Saturday. Nice result for them. Symphony came really close to joining a very exclusive club of teams that went undefeated on Saturday. They did go 6-0 with key wins over Citrus, Fruit Punch, Outcast Ninjas, and Access Denied. Going 17-1, almost hitting a perfect 18-0 Swiss stage that I believe has only happened 3 or 4 times since we moved over to the 6-week or the 6-round tournament that this is now. So just barely missing out joining that group was Symphony, but still undefeated in their set. A very dominant Saturday for them. Let's go to the team that had the highest opponent win percentage, and that one goes out to the fan favorite Geek Squids with 69.4% opponent win percentage. Key wins against Fallen Ink, Inkstrike Inklings, and Syntopia. I believe Geek Squids went 4-2, but when you have the highest opponent win percentage in the entire tournament, going 4-2 is easily enough to get you into top cut. Riptide went 2-4 last month. Turned that around to go 3-3 this month with key wins against team name Guys Please, but I believe their name in this tournament was Touch Grass Guys Please, and Inkvaders. And you love seeing teams improving, and they qualified for Sunday. I believe they were the last team in their group to qualify for Gamma Bracket. So nice improvement there for Team Riptide. Obviously, Shiver Me Inklings had a heck of a Saturday for themselves. 4-2 win with key wins over Tooniverse, Unlimited Woomy United, or Uwu, and went 1-2 in both of their losses to CIA and the Ink Reapers. So they did not get swept at all throughout the course of their Saturday and got 4 wins with it, making beta brackets. And we're not done talking about these guys because they still popped off on Sunday as well. Inksurance Agency, becoming the best team with the word ink in their name is what it's looking like. Got their first alpha bracket with a 4-2 result on Saturday. Key wins against the Div 2 Low Ink Warriors, Rainbow Blossom, and System of a Splashdown. Insurance Agency continuing to improve in every tournament that we see them play in. Wii Sports, one of the best pickup teams we've seen in a while. I guess you could say Antarctica Splatoon, now that I know their pickup, might have had a better one. We'll get on to it. Good morning, Camo. They had a 5-1 result here, the Wii Sports pickup team, with key wins against Citrus, Access Denied, Rising Hope, and Rainbow Blossom. So nicely done. I believe this was the Danny Boy. I believe this was basically the not basically, but this had some members of that Weeping Bell's Revenge team that won Minnow Cup a couple of weekends ago. Not the same exact team, but still some players. The Buffed Bees. I like that team name. 4-2 result here with key wins against Anarchy, Mahi Monsoon, although I am I'm assuming that one was more so because I think that's when Mahi started having internet issues, unless I'm wrong. And the Div 2 Low Ink Warriors. This is a new team made up of the hashtag Abbyjoan team and Rising Tide. Finished number 9 in their group, just barely missing out on Alpha Bracket. But the Buffed Bees, if this is an actual team and not a project or whatever, be interested in seeing these guys going forward. Outcast Ninjas went from Gamma Bracket to Alpha Bracket, going 4-2 in this tournament with key wins against Power Inc., Crescendo Brigade, and Tinta Shrimps. It seems like there was always a glass ceiling keeping the Outcast Ninjas out of Alpha Bracket, but they earned it outright this time around. I know Stormy was pretty big on these guys since he started coaching them, and I can see why now that they made Alpha Bracket for the first time. High expectations for the Ninjas going forward. I think they're going to be a name brand team in the next low inks to come. Enigma had a really good tournament this time around. 4-2 win with 4-2 result with key wins over the Wiggly Phantoms. And a good result. Their opponent win percentage is what just kept them out of Alpha Bracket, which is kind of the issue with any team that goes 4-2. But still, a nice win, a nice Saturday for Enigma, which they seem to have sometimes as not, and sometimes they don't, but this time around they definitely did. System of a Splashdown popped off this tournament. 4-2 record themselves with key wins against Power Inc. Last ditch effort, and they never got swept. Their 2 losses were 1-2 results as well. A very gritty Saturday for the System of a Splashdown team. Speaking of last-ditch effort, these guys had a great tournament as well. A 3-3 result for them, and they got Gamma after going 2-4 in January, which was the last time we saw them. Key wins against Myopsidus and Shadow Phoenix. So last-ditch effort improving, even though we haven't seen them in a while. They did make Gamma Bracket. Falling Inc. went 4-2 with key wins over the Fukatsu Angels, Balloons Tower Defense 6, and OK Woomer, a couple of teams that made Alpha Bracket and Gamma Bracket, putting Falling Inc. into Alpha Bracket. They played in 2 tournaments in low level, Minnow Cup and Low Inc., and they've made Top Cut / Alpha Bracket in both of those tournaments. So Fallen Inc. quickly becoming a fan favorite as far as I'm concerned. The biggest winner from Swiss Saturday goes out to Ink Eye, who went 4-2 with key wins over Anarchy, the Wiggly Phantoms, and 60% Fish Puns, their best Saturday ever in their first trip to Beta Bracket. I talked about it was either last month or the month before. They were tweeting out how excited they were that they got Gamma Bracket. That is now a distant memory as they now go 4-2 and beat some really notable teams. Ink Eye seems to have turned the corner, and hopefully they have a bright future set ahead of them as well. Attaboy, Ink Eye. Let's talk about Sunday, the things that happened there. All right, how do we say that team's name? Laura, can you come in here and just say it out loud? Since I apparently cannot read. Yosemite?
Yeah, Yosemite.
Yosemite National Park. Okay. Is there a park called Yosemite? Yosemite, Sam? Yosemite. Yosemite? No, she says no.
There is no Yosemite.
There is no Yosemite. Okay. Yosemite. Always nice to have a live fact check here on the Popcast. Let's go. Yosemite. Let's look at Gamma Brackets. Matches of note from Gamma Bracket. And you know what? I'm going to move that down there for just a second. Since we have this new overlay system, why don't we take a look at it? we'll use it here. Again, those on Spotify. What do you mean by overlay system? Don't worry. I like you too, unless I don't. We're now looking at Gamma Bracket here. And some matches I want to point out. First off, the Wiggly Phantoms got a 3-1 win over Yosemite, the national park team, apparently. They get revenge later, as you can see in the loser side of the bracket. They do play again, but it seems to be always a trend that whenever a team loses to another team at some point in one of these brackets, and they go back and play them again, specifically in the losers finals, the team that lost in winners almost always gets revenge, and it's almost always not particularly close. A 3-1 result here, going to Yosemite's way. It's interesting to see how a team responds after they lose. It's like they start turning on the jets, and how a team, after they lose in winners finals, how they don't really respond that well to it. It seems to happen time and time and time again, and we definitely want to point it out here. Last Ditch Effort got a 3-2 win over Twilight Anglers. The Twilight Anglers had a really good tournament themselves. I believe they beat Tooniverse at some point on Saturday. And I thought these guys disbanded, or maybe I confused them with somebody else who made a post that they disbanded, but still a very nice result for Twilight Anglers, which makes this Last Ditch Effort win against them even more significant, this nice 3-2 win. Lastly, Tooniverse versus 60% Fish Puns. Tooniverse won this one 3-1. I'm pointing this out because during the pre-show that was just exclusively on Discord before the tournament started, we brought in Smash from 60% Fish Puns, and he said, I asked him, like, what teams are you excited about playing? And he said that he wanted to go up against Tooniverse and play my wife's team and beat my wife's team. And oddly enough, they do get matched up here, and Smash got what he wanted. a trip against the Tooniverse team, and Tooniverse dispatched of them 3-1. Always like, we love 60% Fish Puns. Those guys are awesome. But Tooniverse is better, clearly. The winners from the Gamma stage. I don't have any. I'm serious. I do not have a single team that I want to declare a winner, give a winner role here. There's a very simple reason for it. The teams that did really well in this tournament. ITAP did pretty well. Mission Instinct did pretty well. Obviously, the Wiggly Phantoms did really well. And I wouldn't give a winner role to the teams who made the top two because, of course, they're winners. They did a really good job there. But none of these teams probably felt crazy excited that they did well in Gamma Bracket. I mean, Mission Instincts made Alpha Bracket consistently. Broken Controller Gaming won this bracket last month. ITAP has won this bracket and Beta Bracket. So it feels like it would be more of like a condescending thing to give a winner role to a team that did well. Here, it would have been great if somebody like Riptide popped off and beat some of these teams, or Hydra or Last Ditch Effort, which they did obviously do pretty well here. But I don't want to just be like, and ITAP, congratulations on this, because I would assume they don't feel particularly happy with how they performed, even though it's understandable. They're de-rusting. We know they're going to be good going forward, but I don't want to just sit here and pat people on the back who probably don't want to be pat on the back. Understandable. Instead, let's talk about grand finals. And what is there to say about it? Yosemite swept Tooniverse 8-0. Yikes. And this was this doesn't, I mean, the result is kind of surprising, but we talk about this kind of a lot. This is what momentum does. Wiggly Phantoms beat Yosemite 3-1. Tooniverse beat Wiggly Phantoms 3-0. But when a team goes through losers bracket, which Yosemite did from losers round 2 on, and just kept building up momentum after momentum after momentum, and then they become this giant monster that just nobody can stop. We've seen this happen a lot in low ink. So and we saw it happen last month in Beta Bracket. Splatarians got completely run over after they won their bracket. I believe Mahi Mahi Monsoon was the team that stomped them 8-1. So these things happen. If these two teams were to play again under different circumstances, I would imagine it'd be a little bit closer. I know it was kind of frustrating for Tooniverse, but still not a bad result all around. You just got to understand the context of the current situation. For the two teams going forward, for Tooniverse, they've made alpha bracket before, but they usually float around gamma or beta. This was a good, you look at the teams Tooniverse beat, this is a good situation. Beating 60% Fish Puns, that's a good win. Beating ITAP outside of Ludi, now beating them in a tournament, shows Tooniverse is starting to turn the corner against them. Sweeping the Wiggly Phantoms, keeping their kind of distance from the Wiggly Phantom team is a good result from them as well. So you look at this and you just think, oh, this is a gamma bracket. These teams aren't very good. No, that's not the case at all. There were really good teams in gamma bracket. And good wins against quality opponents are good wins against quality opponents, regardless of whatever name of the bracket that you get them in. For Yosemite, I think these guys are pretty good. You look, for whatever reason, they just fell off in the middle of Swiss on Saturday. I feel like they're better than game bracket. I think they might be an alpha bracket team going forward. Just whatever consistency issues they had on Saturday would just need to get fixed. And yeah, I know they had Parias as a sub for grand finals, but still not a bad result for them winning this tournament, winning this bracket. But I would assume they have higher expectations, especially of how well they performed in the alpha bracket here. Let's look at beta. Moving on to beta bracket. First game I want to point out here is CIA in the losers bracket getting a 2-0 win over Unlimited Woomy United. Ooh woo. This is significant because Ooh woo was the team that almost just barely missed making alpha bracket last month, and they were the number 1 seed, and I believe they did decently well in beta bracket last month. But here they took on CIA team, who is usually floating around that gamma and beta bracket. I would just hope CIA would finally just establish themselves as, we are consistently making beta bracket. And they didn't do crazy well here, but this is a quality win for CIA. Combine this with the win they got against Yosemite and the 3-0 sweep they got against them in Swiss. These are some good wins that CIA is starting to accumulate. And you can show just by looking at some of these good wins they're getting that they're starting to turn the corner to become a more consistent monster. Dark Rain got a 3-2 win against Bloons Tower Defense 6. This team name was a fan favorite. Fun fact, I played Bloons Tower Defense 1. Like, I got through college playing that game. I mean, it's not a crazy complex game as it is now, but it at least still holds my attention. I'm pointing this out because it seems another huge trend that we see here is a team that wins a bracket usually surprisingly struggles to a team in the early stages. We usually see it in round 1, like Dark Rain usually struggles against a team 3-2, like barely beat a team in round 1 and then go on to win the whole tournament. Here it happened in round 2 to Bloons Tower Defense number 6, who Dark Rain barely escaped, it looked like in game 5 there. The other match that I wanted to point out here was Shiver Me Inklings beating Sekinaga 3-1. And this was the surprising that this is probably the best win Shiver Me Inklings may have ever got that I've kind of looked at. Yeah, beating Rising Hope right before it was really nice as well. But Sekinaga, I feel like, is the true future of Low Ink. I'm still pretty high on these guys, but Shiver Me Inklings said, nope, we're still going to beat you guys in 4 games, not even needing to go to a game 5. So nice win there for Shiver. But the winners from this stage, give me the Ink Strike Inklings, who beat System of a Splashdown. Again, a very strong Saturday for System of a Splashdown, but Ink Strike being the more established team, beat them 3-1. Lost a game 5 to Mule 3-2, and then turned it around and got a few more wins in losers bracket before calling it a day. Sweep over CIA, sweep over Bloons Tower Defense 6 before losing to Rainbow Blossom. Nice result there for Ink Strike Inklings. Speaking of Rainbow Blossom, I wasn't really sure how good this team was actually going to do. We did keep an eye on them during the registration, but they did pretty well here in beta, beating Uwu 3-1, buffed Bees 3-2 before barely losing the Shiver Me Inklings 2-3, and then turning around to get another win in losers bracket against Ink Strike Inklings 2-0. So nice win for Rainbow Blossom. The last winner, no surprise, Shiver Me Inklings. Very surprising result for them here. All their wins coming in the winners bracket: a 3-1 sweep, or a 3-1 win over Rising Hope, 3-1 win over Sekinaga, and a barely 3-2 win over Rainbow Blossom before losing to Dark Rain and the buffed Bees, getting a win on them in losers bracket as well. Very strong result for Shiver Me Inklings. I would assume this is the best result they've ever had in low ink, and something they should be proud of here. For grand finals, Dark Rain is a team I had in the top 10, and they showed why here. Not falling for the trap of letting the buffed Bees move in with momentum and take them down. The buffed Bees being a team who spent a long time in losers bracket. They beat CIA before losing in round 2 to Rainbow Blossom, but then went on a tear through losers bracket. System of a Splashdown, Sekinaga, Mule, Rainbow Blossom, and Shiver Me Inklings all falling. All 5 teams falling to the buffed Bees, but probably just ran out of gas against a really strong Dark Rain team here. And I said, it's interesting because I said I was more interested in seeing Dark Rain stay in beta bracket last month instead of when they got bumped up to alpha bracket because 3AM dropped last month. So Dark Rain stayed in beta brackets, and they won it this time around. I won it pretty convincingly. Swept Div 2, Low Ink Warriors, survived Bloons Tower Defense 6, 3-1 over Mule, swept Shiver Me Inklings, and basically dominated Buff Bees 4-1 there. So what does this mean for both teams going forward? For Buffed Bees, again, I hope this is an actual legit team, because this was their first Low Ink as a team and did really well here. Second place in beta, 4-2 result on Saturday. Pretty consistent there and a very nice win. Hopefully they come back next month and do even better. But for Dark Rain, these guys, this is why I have them in the top 10. They're a strong team. They just barely missed making alpha brackets. And if they can make alpha brackets again next month outright without somebody dropping and them having to take their spot, I think they're going to do really well. And getting a win here on beta bracket, it seems like every time I talk about Dark Rain, they're always doing something significant. And the rain is getting darker by the day for these guys. Let's look at alpha brackets and then go raid somebody. With matches of note, we're going to talk about the Angels a lot here. First off, the Angels with a 3-1 win over Fruit Punch. Why is this significant? Because, well, Fruit Punch finished in second place, as you saw. And again, this is the match that sent them down. This is the same, literally same scenario that happened last month. The Angels played Citrus. They beat Citrus 3-1 in round 1 of winners bracket. Got revenge, and then the Angels would eventually fall to Citrus again in losers bracket, just as Fruit Punch was able to get revenge on the Angels again this month in losers bracket. So it's the same situation. The Angels being the team that dismisses the team that ends up in second place in round 1 here. The Angels went on to have a better tournament this time around than they did last month, but still, they seem to find a way to beat a team that'll finish in second place in round 1. Wii Sports, the pickup team, got a 3-2 win over Falling Ink. And this is what's exciting about Falling Ink is that, like I said, 2 low-level tournaments. They made top cut and alpha in every tournament they played in so far as a Div 8 team. And they're getting some nice wins, but they keep in these top cut brackets, they keep getting it to a game 5. I believe it was, or I forget who they played in Minnow Cup. There was a strong, it was the Evening Chickens they played in Minnow Cup that they almost beat, went to a game 5, couldn't steal the deal, Went to a Game 5 here against Wii Sports and couldn't seal the deal again, but still falling in, getting closer with each tournament that they play in, but a nice win for the pickup team, Wii Sports, regardless. Lastly, the Angels taking on Geek Squids, and they survived 3-2. This was on stream. And the Geek Squids won the first 2 games until the Angels got the reverse sweep. The last game being Rainmaker on Starfish main stage, a back and forth game that ultimately just went to the Angels' way. You like seeing reverse sweeps here. And this was the last match the Angels won during the day. They lost to Ink Reapers, and then Fruit Punch, I believe, swept them in losers. But still, it seemed like the Geek Squids were just going to march their way to their first ever winners finals when they were up 2-0 until the Angels just kind of took over there and got the nice win. Wanted to point that out. Winners from the Alpha stage. First off, a team I've yet to really talk about, but give it to him here. 3AM. This team did make Alpha Bracket last month, but failed to qualify, or they couldn't play. They had to drop. I guess they didn't have enough players on that last Sunday, so they couldn't play. And I was curious to see how well they would actually do if they stuck it out and played that Alpha Bracket. Well, they stuck it out and played this Alpha Bracket, and they did really well here, sweeping Anarchy on stream. 3-2 win over Symphony, knocking off the number 1 seed, giving them their first loss of the entire weekend, before barely falling to Ink Reapers here, 2-3, and then going on to beat Citrus, my personal number 1 team in this tournament, in losers bracket, and then barely losing to Fruit Punch. They had Fruit Punch against the ropes, backs against the wall, 1-0 in a best of 3, dropped the next 2, but still, this is why I was curious to see 3M last month, because they apparently really good, popped off, finished in 4th place in this tournament. Not too shabby for them. Fukatsu Angels obviously deserve a winner role here. We basically talked about every game they played in, beat Fruit Punch 3-1. They also beat Insurance Agency 3-1. Insurance Agency having a good tournament this time around, going pretty decently well into, winning their first match in winners bracket. And we talked about the 3-2 reverse sweep against the Geek Squids to make it to winners finals before ultimately losing to Ink Reapers and the Fukatsu Angels. Man, if Ink Reapers, that was the game, Rainmaker on the Reef, where that horrible Rainmaker game where nothing happened until the last 10 seconds. Where if the Ink Reapers don't throw that ink wall frame perfectly where it needs to go, Fukatsu Angels win that game, because that ink wall kept them from getting that 1-point lead that they needed to get in overtime. And if they don't throw that ink wall, that sets 2-2, and then who knows what happens in a game 5 there. But that ink wall saved the Reapers and put the Angels in the losers bracket, who ultimately made bronze medal, just as I predicted they would. Exactly. Nice work, Popgun. Lastly, definitely not least, Syntopia. After losing to Symphony in round 1, 3-1, they went on a little bit of a mini tear here in losers bracket, sweeping Anarchy and sweeping Insurance Agency before losing to Citrus. Syntopia, I said this was a new team, and hopefully this is an actual team and not a project. Be excited to see more of these guys going forward. Especially like it when you see teams lose early and then do some damage in Alpha Bracket, in the losers bracket of Alpha Bracket. Let's talk about grand finals. We'll get to it. Fruit Punch versus the Ink Reapers. JPEG and I commentated this one, so obviously we're very familiar with this. I was saying during the stream that we've seen this story before, and Citrus can tell you. It looked like Citrus ran out of gas the last time they were in losers bracket, or the last time they were in grand finals. And I said Fruit Punch was likely to have that same kind of scenario happen to them at some point. The reason I say this is, just like Citrus, Fruit Punch lost in round 1 and then had to spend the entire afternoon playing in losers bracket. Again, making losers bracket runs from the very beginning of the losers bracket all the way through the end. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's draining. I've been there. Destiny Troops did that in the SAC finals. We went all the way through losers, and then by the time we got to the grand finals, it was really hard to be at the mental top of our game, and it's even more difficult to do here in low ink because there's more matches to play in losers. Whereas the Ink Reapers, they get the break, they get like an hour off, and you can really screw up that break, but if you treat it correctly, you get a little bit more of a fresh start. Losers bracket, unless there's like a stream delay, which there was a little bit of a stream delay in round 5, you don't get a break. You just keep playing matches, and it's stressful because you know that if you lose, it could be over. You just 2 losses and it's over. So you're constantly playing stressful situations. That takes a toll on you. And when the Fruit Punch got up 3-0 on the Ink Reapers, and it looked like they were going to pull off that reverse sweep. If they got the reverse sweep, they would have reset their mentality and would have given them enough juice they needed to close out the tournament. But once the Ink Reapers stopped the momentum and they got that first win, you could see Fruit Punch starting to make a lot of mental errors that they weren't making earlier in the stream. Most notably on the tower control game in Game 7, they got the huge lead, and then the last player left alive fired off missiles for seemingly no reason when they would have been really good to have those missiles to stop the counter push that Ink Reapers were about to bring out. And I'm not sitting here criticizing people's gameplay or anything. Again, you got to understand the context. When you've been playing for that long, you are naturally going to start making mental errors that kind of cost you a game. It's understandable. And that's kind of the situation here. Fruit Punch, you could tell they ran out of gas, and it's completely understandable that they would. Still, Ink Reapers avoid. I was surprised. I said when they were down 3-0, like, does it make sense to try to grind this out and win this one? Or is it better to just kind of take an L and just start over and try to just mentally refresh? Instead, they said, no, we're going to win this tournament right here, right now. And they reverse swept 4-0. The first time we've ever seen that in low ink, a reverse sweep of grand finals 4-0 results. So there you go. What does this mean for both teams going forward? For Ink Reapers, this is why I was saying this was a really difficult tournament for them, because again, you'll have to go back, and if you're just now joining us, go back and watch the first 20 seconds of this VOD. I explained why the Ink Reapers were the team that they were and how they really had to struggle in this tournament. You look at how they did in Alpha Bracket here, they really struggled here. 3-2 over Citrus, 3-2 over 3AM, 1 loss to Wii Sports, 1 loss to Fugatsu Angels, and barely escaped Fruit Punch in this first in the first bracket, just barely avoiding the reset. This was not an easy tournament for the Reapers at all. It was far from easy. They just passed every test given to them. They did not fail when they needed to win the most. Is when they stepped up. That's not their fault, and that has nothing to do with 2,700 players. Like, come on, get out of here. There was nothing suspicious about this at all. This was just a clean win, and a nice win for Ink Reapers. It'll be interesting to see how they do in SAC if that were to come back over the course of this summer. We'll definitely keep an eye on them for sure. They'll be if there's ever, you got to think, if there was another high ink, how good would these guys actually do? I don't know. I guess that's not really fair to kind of compare that immediately right now. But still, Ink Reapers, you got to feel satisfied with how they win this tournament, because this was a struggle for them to get this win. For Fruit Punch, this is a team we should all be excited about. Now, here's the interesting thing. I would assume, because if you are eligible to play in this low ink, that is because low ink staff values your team as a Div 5 team. That is a fact that we value as a Div 5-ish team. No offense to the Div 4 teams that got let in, but you played in a tournament with a bunch of other Div 5 teams. That is a fact. Fruit Punch, after what we've seen from them, if we were to put them in Ludi, I mean, it'd be hard to say they are a Div 5 team. They seem pretty strong. But I see no reason to ban them next month. except for the players who are clearly have too much of a good tournament history to be let in. But Fruit Punch is going to be a strong team going forward, and hopefully it is an actual team and not just a project. We've seen them play in SOS, where they won Lantern Bracket. So I want some more Fruit Punch. And the more I say the words Fruit Punch, the more I want to go downstairs and get like a juice box or something. Some Hawaiian Punch or High C. Do you guys know what Hawaiian Punch is? Is that even an actual thing? I haven't had that in like a couple of decades, but I'm kind of craving it now, not going to lie. And that's going to conclude this episode of the Popcast. We are not going to do a Ludi recap because there's nothing really to recap. It's makeup week. I already did like the playoff scenarios. Oh, I don't need to be doing this screen. Already did the playoff scenarios. And a lot of those scenarios kind of happened already. So there's not enough content to talk about an entire hour of that. I already did playoff predict. Yeah, I'll do playoff predictions once the playoffs are actually set. So not this week, but next week I'll probably do like playoff predictions for Ludi stuff. Regardless, we are done today. And if you would like to be a part of the podcast in any way, if you want to join my Discord server and join the discussions that's going on there, if you want to tell me that I'm the best thing you have ever seen in your entire life, if you want to give me compliments on my facial hair, if you think I should shave it or not, I'm always seeking feedback on this because I don't know how people actually think about this. Feel free to reach out to me. My socials below on the overlay. Twitch at Mr_Popgun, Discord at Popgun #5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun for those of you listening and not watching. We are going to raid, let's just go to fish. Keep wearing your masks. Keep getting injected. There's no microchip in it. Keep buying stock in Microsoft. Completely unrelated.